Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, finding which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate for them to read. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. If you're looking for real book reviews from a mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome, and I hope that you enjoy this week's book review. This week's book review is Everywhere You Want to Be by Christina June, and this is the second in the companion series that begins with It Started With Goodbye. This book is told from the perspective of Tilly, Tatum's stepsister from the first book. Tilly has graduated high school and is in New York City for the summer to be part of a contemporary dance program, hoping to get at least one last chance at a permanent job with a dance company. Unbeknownst to her mom, Tilly has deferred Georgetown and is putting all her chips on the line. After a difficult senior year, Tilly has come to realize that there is only one thing she really wants to do in life, and that's dance. So before I go any further, I do want to share with you just a little bit of the opening chapter to give you a little taste of the storyline and the writing style. I hated lying to my mother. It always left an unpleasant metallic taste in my mouth, like I'd accidentally bitten my cheek and it bled a little. But sometimes I didn't have any other choice. She'd given me an ultimatum. You may accept the spot in New York, she said. My heart had inflated like a balloon, just as soon as you send in your deposit to Georgetown. And so began the slow, sad leak. I could almost hear the whistling sound as my heart collapsed in on itself. At least she couldn't hear it. The summer dance program in New York was supposed to be the first step on my journey toward a professional dance career, one that didn't make a pit stop at Georgetown University. College had always been part of my goals, but if anyone knew about plans changing, it was me. And check in with your grandmother every once in a while, Mama continued. She's recovering from her surgery with a friend in New Jersey, so she'll be nearby. My free-spirited abuela had recently torn her rotator cuff during trapeze lessons. When my mother scolded her for doing something so dangerous at her age, Abuela just scoffed and said she was fulfilling her dream of being in the circus. Classic Abuela. In the solitude of my bedroom, I pulled out my favorite magenta notebook, the one my stepsister Tatum had given me on my 18th birthday, and debated with myself. Go to college, dance professionally. So in the story, it's given 2 columns. And so you can see here her decision as she's trying to decide her pro-con list. It wasn't even close. So I'd sent in the deposit, holding a spot for me at Georgetown, and then I emailed Sage Oliver, the choreographer, telling her I accepted her offer to dance in the citywide installation this summer. What my mother didn't know was that with my deposit submission, I had also deferred my admission for a year. It was a risk, probably the biggest one I'd ever taken. But I needed to give dance one last real shot. I'd held my breath as I sent the final email confirming with the dean that I would not be on campus at the end of August. If I was offered a job with a dance company, then I'd cross that bridge with Mama when I came to it. And if I didn't, well, as much as I liked things planned and in a neat little row, I'd have to think about that one later. The icky taste in my mouth lingered the whole train ride to New York, no matter how much water I drank or gum I chewed. I read my list probably 100 times on the trip up, reminding myself I was on the right path for me, I hoped. So that just gives you a little taste of the opening of the story. So in New York City, Tilly is in a dorm with other dancers that are in her summer program and other people who are not necessarily in her program. Charlotte specifically is her roommate. Arden and Ella are 2 younger girls who are not quite finished with high school. And then there's Sabrina, who is Tilly's antagonist throughout the story. Fortunately, Tilly has an awesome roommate, and when they are on one of the first outings in the city, Tilly accidentally runs into Paolo, who is a love interest from back home that didn't quite end on a good note. So because of this encounter, Tilly is not off to a good start emotionally in the city. The backstory is that Tilly broke her ankle in her senior year of high school on some stairs. So thinking her dance career is over, Tilly had a lot of anger and disappointment to work through. At the time, Paolo is basically collateral damage. She pushes everything away. and definitely ignores him. Seeing him again in New York City, all of the places, of all places, really is what brings her to sort of a shock. However, Tilly is sort of in the process of trying to put her life back together and also really determining what she wants her future to look like. So, with encouragement from Tatum and Charlotte, Tilly gets the courage to meet with Paolo and apologize for the way that she treated him. He accepts her apology, and the two of them actually begin dating in the story. This doesn't happen immediately, so it does take a little bit of time. There are several references within the story to their kisses and the electricity that Tilly feels at his touch. Given that the characters are 18, about to enter into the fall following their high school year and graduation, the details and the interactions are actually fairly mild and clean. There isn't anything beyond kissing, and there's nothing sexual mentioned. In rigorous rehearsal and drama, and then the development with Paolo, like if that wasn't enough to sort of keep the conflict and storyline going, Sabrina is set on destroying Tilly's chance at a job offer at the end of summer. So when given an opportunity, Sabrina consistently sabotages Tilly. However, Tilly doesn't respond in kind. After doing a little digging on Sabrina's past and overhearing a conversation between Sabrina and her mother, Tilly has compassion for Sabrina and her situation. Before the big performance at the end of the book, Sabrina reveals to Tilly that it has been Sabrina's mother who has encouraged her to sabotage Tilly the entire time, and hoping that Tilly will not get a certain performance or job offer, and that those instead would go to Sabrina. So there's a bit of reconciliation at the end as Tilly attempts to understand Sabrina and offer sort of compassion instead of anger and retribution. Definitely encourage you to check out my full written review at holdingsteadfastreaders.com. You're going to find more details, quotes, some other noteworthy mentions in the book. I've made those available to you. As a parent, I want to make sure that there's no surprises, and as much as possible that you have as much information you need to make sure that this is an appropriate read for your child. One thing I do want to note is there is that romantic element with Paolo, so definitely check out my review for a little more details on that. However, you will not find any profanity in this book at all, so that's a huge plus. Overall, the story has good themes and messages about the importance of friendship and family. There's also the importance of unity, hard work, considering other people's perspectives, and the idea of forgiveness. Aside from the one odd mention by Sage Oliver, the choreographer, and you're going to get more details of that in my written review. I don't really want to put that on the sort of audio video review here. So definitely go check out my written review for that, because that may be of concern for some parents. But other than that, like one little awkward mention, there really isn't anything in the story that presents anything awkward or unsavory. Of course, the line between Tilly and her mother is not a good thing, so it's important to have conversations, especially with young readers, so that they can share their thoughts and opinions with their parents, that they don't need to hide and lie, but that having those open, hard, honest conversations are necessary. And just a final reminder, I do want you parents to go and check out page 202 and 203. Again, holdingsteadfastreaders.com for more information about that, to make sure that there's nothing unsettling for you. And this, again, is the second book sort of in that series where it is titled, starts with goodbye. And then there is one more. Everywhere You Want to Be, though, is book 2 following Tilly. And hopefully I will have book 3 out for you soon, so you can kind of decide for your teen readers if this series is something you want to pursue or allow them to read. Hopefully this book review is helpful to you. The goal is to provide parents with information that they need to make sure that what their children are reading is what they want them to be reading, and that there aren't any surprises. So thank you for joining me today for this week's book review, and I hope that you'll join me next week for another book review.